Sometimes when you speak to non-Muslims, most of them have this impression that Islam is a violent religion, Islam was spread by the sword. When you read and this is knowledge that we have to have, right? We have to be able to respond. When people are saying that your religion is a violent religion, a barbaric religion, your prophet was a warmonger, you know, you wouldn't like it if someone insulted your mother, you want to defend them. If someone is insulting the prophet, you have nothing to say? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah Al-Hajj verse 39, 15 years after the prophet began his mission, after 15 years of religious persecution, in those 15 years the prophet lost his uncle Abu Talib, he lost his wife, he lost his home. There were days when he went hungry. He was physically assaulted. His face was covered in blood because he was being stoned by children. He was expelled, banished from Mecca. All of these things. After 15 years, all of this time, Allah did not give the Muslims permission to fight. And then after 15 years, what does Allah say? أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا. Permission. Allah is not commanding them to fight. You now have permission to fight against those who oppressed you. Not just anybody. You don't just take out your anger and your frustration on anyone who comes in your way. بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. And then what does Allah say? When you look at the life of the Prophet, you may say the Prophet sometimes ordered the killing of certain people. So we don't want to sugarcoat things. We don't want to act as though the Prophet was a pacifist and he was just going around hugging people. No, the Prophet was a realistic human being. There are some people who are naive. The Prophet knows when to be merciful, but he also knows when to be firm. At the end of the day, the Prophet is the head of state. He has a community, he has a nation, he has a responsibility to protect the people of his society. So whenever the Prophet exercises that firmness, and it seems that he's being firm, or why is the Prophet executing this individual? Or why is the Prophet showing some harshness with that person? The reason is the Prophet is simply removing the obstacles to peace. There are some people, no matter what you do with them, they don't want, they're against peace. The Prophet only fought against those who were obstacles to peace. And whenever there was an opportunity for peace, whenever that was an option, what does Allah say? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu dkhulu fis silmi kaffa. O you who believe, enter into peace, all of you. Because you can't have peace unless everybody goes in. You can't have some people fighting and some people, everybody has to enter. It's as if it's a world, it's a realm. You guys all have to enter this realm of peace. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I'll conclude with this, in Surah Ali Imran, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to remind the Muslims of the greatest blessing that He gave them, do you know what Allah says in verse 103 of Surah Ali Imran? وَاذْكُرُوا نِعْمَةَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكُمْ. Remember the blessing of Allah upon you. إِذْ كُنْتُمْ أَعْدَاءً فَأَلَّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِكُمْ. Remember the blessing of Allah upon you. When you were enemies and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought your hearts together. فَأَصْبَحْتُمْ بِنِعْمَتِهِ إِخْوَانًا. Through His blessing, you became brothers. وَكُنْتُمْ عَلَى شَفَى حُفْرَةٍ مِّنَ النَّارِ فَأَنْقَذَكُمْ مِنْهَا. And you were on the edge of hell. You're constantly fighting each other. You know, some of us, we're not on the edge of hell. We are in hell. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He wants there to be peace, especially between mu'mineen. He wants there to be unity, especially between mu'mineen. You know, when Shias used to come to Imam Sadiq complaining, you know, this guy owes me money, they would come to the Imam. They complain. Imam Sadiq, he would tell his Shi'as that if you see two Shi'as fighting with each other, and most of the time people fight over what? They fight over money, dunya. Imam says if you see two Shi'as in a dispute because of money, the Imam says, come and take my money and resolve the conflict. And resolve the conflict. This is how the Imam didn't want us to fight. He wanted that peace. When the Prophet conquered Mecca, we know the famous story. These are the same people that expelled him. The Prophet ﷺ, he told Bilal, call the adhan. Everyone gathered. These are the same people who have been bullying Muslims for almost 2 decades. These are the same people that fought the Prophet tooth and nail in the battlefields. These are the same people who killed members of his family. So the Prophet, he stood there and he said to them, he could have slaughtered all of them. He said to them, what should I do with you people? And of course they know who they're dealing with, the Prophet. They say, Akhun Kareem, wabnu Akhin Kareem. You're a noble man, the son of a noble man. We expect nothing but mercy from you. The Prophet says to them, I say to you what Yusuf said to his brothers. So he still considers them brothers. Even though you're not even Muslim. But there are these ties between us. And look at what the Prophet says. It's an amazing statement. He says, La tathrib alaykum al-yawm. There's no blame on you today. And then what does the Prophet say? Yaghfirullahu lakum. Allah will forgive you. He doesn't say, I'll forgive you. Because all of the harm was directed to him. He doesn't say, I will forgive you. The Prophet ﷺ was so immersed in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he doesn't even see himself. He only sees Allah. Allah is all that there is. This is a man who is so connected to Allah that he doesn't even see himself as part of the equation. It's only Allah. Allah is the first, the last. He's everything. Allah forgave you. And then what does he say? Look at this olive branch that he's extending. He even says, he says, even the one who enters the house of Abu Sufyan is safe. His arch enemy. See how the Prophet prioritizes peace. Whenever there is an opportunity to prioritize peace, to make peace, the Prophet always took that path. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us and to guide us and to make us agents of peace and unity in our families, in our communities. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us the shafa'ah of these holy personalities, Rasulullah and Imam Sadiq, the absolute agents of peace and unity.